In the competitive world of medical school, your application is the first look advisors have into what makes you shine. But where do you start? Luckily, Med School Coach has the expertise to elevate your application to the next level. From crafting a compelling personal statement to developing a narrative for your secondary essays, we know what admissions committees are looking for, and we're here to help you develop your authentic voice. Visit medschoolcoach.com for more on application support.
This is how I would advise you as a current medical student or an incoming medical student to approach research. You are not approaching research just to have a publication. You are not approaching research just to have something in your CV. You are approaching research as a way to grow and build who you are.
Welcome to the Prospective Doctor Podcast, brought to you by Med School Coach. Join us weekly for stories and insights to empower pre-med and medical students to pursue their aspirations of becoming doctors. Hear from physicians, deans, advisors, and industry experts on becoming a standout candidate and what life is truly like in the medical field. Let passion ignite your journey toward residency and becoming a doctor.
Making yourself stand out in the competitive world of applying to medical school and residency is one of the biggest questions that we always receive. Joining us today is Dr. Chiamaka Okorie. She's a recent graduate from the Geisel School of Medicine at Dartmouth. She had an incredible journey from Nigeria to the United States, culminating in her match into dermatology at the University of Texas Southwestern in Dallas. She's also doing her internal medicine year at the Cambridge Health Alliance at Harvard. Dr. Okorie's path is a testament to dedication, resilience, and the power of self-advocacy. In this episode, we'll cover a lot. We'll talk about her experiences as an international student, how she built a compelling application portfolio, how to get involved into research, and her strategies for successfully bashing into a highly competitive field such as dermatology. We'll also discuss the significance of early exploration, proactive networking, and the power of mentorship. Here's my conversation with Dr. Okorie. As you mentioned, sometimes it may be difficult to figure out how to navigate getting into a U.S. medical school when you are international. So can you explain a little bit for our listeners who may be wondering about that process and if it's right for them and how they can go about the application process?
I speak all day, every day, because if you go online, you can find a website called F1 Doctors. That is a website where there are contact information for people like me who are navigating this U.S. medical journey, who are not U.S. citizens, just to reach out, and you will find my information on there. So I always tell students who, regardless of your background, if you are an international student, if you are the first person in your family to do medicine like me, if you are from an underserved community, underrepresented in medicine, it doesn't matter. What I have been a longstanding member of the admissions committee at Dartmouth, so I can say this with almost some positivity and some assurance because I've been in the room. But if you are a good candidate, period, you are a good candidate for medical school. So if you're asking yourself, is this a journey I can do? Ask yourself, even if I was born in the US, if I was born with a silver spoon, if I wasn't, are you a candidate that medical school would want to take in for that limited spot? If you have a good MCAT score, you have the story, you have the patient population you want to help, you have some of that research, you have some of that clinical work, you carry yourself like someone who the medical community would really benefit from, it's a no-brainer. Any medical school would take you. So just position yourself to be a good candidate. And when it gets to applying, yeah, there are a good number of schools that do not take international students, but there are a good number of schools that do. You only need one. Once you position yourself, you apply broadly to those schools and see what happens.
You only need one. I think that is something that is so powerful to say, because I think a lot of students get in their heads and they're like, well, I got to make this, I got to make that. But you are scouting these schools as much as they're scouting you or these residency programs. And as long as you think back, I think, to what you were describing as your why, why do you want to go into medicine? What communities do you want to serve? what impact do you want to have? That all goes back, and you can just tie that and kind of put that towards your application, as well as, checking the boxes that we all have to check, like, of course, the prerequisites and things, but some of the things that are making you you and that are causing your why can make you actually stand out and be unique and be something that a school may want in their class. So you applied, you got into Dartmouth, like, wow. And from there, you were in the first year. So thinking way back when, so you did the 5-year route. So thinking 5 years ago, when you first entered your first year of medical school, what are 3 things you wish that you had known when you were first starting?
I love this question, and I really am. I was thinking about this question all day today. And now that as a 5th year and as a soon-to-be MD and someone who is coming to her career, I have so many peers who are in this journey with me, and we sit down and we have a chat and we have a laugh. And these are the 3 things I feel like are recurring themes amongst myself and the people I've seen around me. The one thing I wish I knew when I came to med school was that medical school is a cumulative experience. So it's a cumulative knowledge bank experience where if you decide that you come in as a first year and the foundational courses might not be as difficult for you if you're someone with a really strong science background, or it might be too difficult for you, or whatever it might be. This is your foundational stage. You have to come in and you have to soak as much knowledge in that first year because it's cumulative. If you're not studying enough and you're falling behind, then you're falling behind for your boards. Then you're falling behind when you're an intern. Then you're falling behind even all the way to whatever you're envisioning your career. So when I see some of my classmates who did so well in medical school, they came in with that zest. And they came in knowing that this is a privilege and I'm going to soak up all the knowledge and I'm going to have my foundation and make it stronger. So that's my number 1. My number 2 is I was talking to some of my friends who are not in medicine. And I think this was something that really struck me was the variety in medicine. I think when we come in, when I was pre-med, I had a very narrow thinking of what medicine was. I was like, all I knew was I saw myself and I saw patients. And I was like, I just needed to get to a point where I could help patients. That was all I knew. But at this point in my career, I wish, like, when I look back, I have friends who did your MD, MBA. I had friends who, like me, who wanted to venture into research. I had friends who really wanted to be that community voice. You have people who are leveraging social media. You have people who are leveraging entrepreneurship. You have people who are leveraging like community partners, and you're really saying, this is what I want to do. You have people who really, they just want to go back and work in their rural state environment. That's where they grew up. That's who they know. That's what they want to do. There's so much variety in medicine. And when you're coming in, like once you get in, expand your mind, be open to so many opportunities. I wish I knew that. And the last thing is, this is a career. When you come in as a first year medical school, you revert back to, I think, that mindset of like, we're back in school, especially if you had a job somewhere else, you just graduated from college. You are back in school, but you are back in school to build a career. So that means that every single thing you do, your grades, your mentors, your research output, some of the community work you do, what you put your name behind, what you put your time behind, that is building your career already. So just really thinking of yourself as, I am coming into this career, not I am coming into this school. This learning environment is the start of your career.
Those are some powerful things. And just to reiterate, like, I love for your first point, how you were saying, like, yes, everyone's going to have their own struggle. And you come in and you may breeze through like the first 2 years, but you have to come in and you have to realize that even if you think you know something, like, try to soak up as much as you can, because that's the foundational part of your entire career. So even if you come in and you are having some struggles, put your pride aside, get a tutor, figure it out, because you don't want to be weak in those parts that are foundational, because it's just going to build on top of itself. And then I think for the second part where you were talking about how much diversity there is in medicine that we wouldn't even realize, we're thinking about that patient component, but there are so many different things that we can add to that. And I love that about your generation, that I think a lot of times when I was in med school, not that long ago, but kind of long ago, that we thought about like, okay, maybe in the future we do this, or those people do MBAs, like I'm just going to see patients. But you guys are taking charge and figuring out how you can connect now, whether or not that's through social media or entrepreneurship. And you're not just waiting till you get that MD to do it, like you're doing it right now. So you can take charge of what you want to do. And then the third part that you were saying about realizing that this is a career, like you may be in a school where you don't really feel as supported or as comfortable, or you may be very supported and you may kind of think about it as just like this one snapshot in time where you just have to get through it to get to residency or the next step. But all of this is building on something else in your career. There are friends that I have from medical school that we talk all the time. I'm about to go on vacation with a few of them next week. Or there are mentors that you can call and talk to, and they're talking to you through each phase of life and giving you that advice. So don't just think about it as, oh, I'm only doing this rotation, or I'm only here for 4 years or 5 years. This is a part of what's making you you and the type of physician that you'll be. So as you also mentioned, like some of your friends took different avenues, but you were interested in research. So you took a dedicated research year and you have so many publications. I think you said before the show over 10, which is crazy, like the Sylvia School. What are some of your tips for students who may be interested in research? And from your experience, because we'll dive a little more deeply afterwards on what field you chose, but some fields are a little more competitive and they may require research. So how do students get involved?
I'm not one to force research in anyone, because I feel like when you're putting out research, it should come from a place of passion. Sometimes you don't have the luxury of doing that because you have an end goal and you want to match into a competitive specialty and you do research. But again, when you think of this as your career, I think it really starts to shape what you do and what you put your name against. When I look at some of the work I did when it came to research, I realized that I had an interest in working with immigrants. So when I was doing research with this population, it did not feel like a burden. It did not feel like work. I actually felt like even as a medical student, my voice mattered because I was bringing a voice to the table that was normally not on the table. So when I put out research projects, I really felt connected. This is how I would advise you as a current medical student or an incoming medical student to approach research. You are not approaching research just to have a publication. You are not approaching research just to have something in your CV. You are approaching research as a way to grow and build who you are. What do I mean by that? When people ask us, like, they're like, what is mentorship? Why do I need research? What is the point? The point of research is to, one, grow your voice in something. So it's like, I am going to be this expert in migrant workers and immigrant workers and this population. I want to start putting out a body of work that shows my interests. That is what you use research for. I want my mentor, when it comes time for residency application, to pick up the phone, to call on my behalf, for everyone around me to see that I am someone that they want around. How do I showcase that? I work with these mentors. I put out a body of work with them, and I show that I am growing and I'm receiving feedback and I'm putting out good work. I am working hard through research. That is what they need, and that's what they ask for when they ask you as a medical student to show that you've done research. People think it's just, I'm just doing research. If you do research on 500 different topics, even if you have 500 publications, I don't think that is something that would be looked on favorably by anyone. They want you to do research so you can build your connection with your mentor and you can build the voice you're going to have in your career. If you're not approaching research in that way, you can easily burn out.
I definitely appreciate that because I love how you put it, like showing the growth and showing how you're accepting feedback and how you are contributing to the team and also how you're growing in your interest in building upon your work on the actual things that you want to do to show genuine interest. I think a lot of times people get kind of overwhelmed when they're like, oh, I'm a student, I have all of these things. Even when it comes to clinical rotations or when you're in residency, like I know a lot when intern year comes and is coming for you soon, people can start intern year and they're like, what should I be studying before I start? And all of these different things, which is normal, it's human nature, but honestly, nothing. We don't have any expectations of you. Like you're there to learn. So if over intern year for those fourth years who are going into that, when you start, you have this foundation that you've gotten from medical school where you've learned how to compose a SOAP note, where you've learned how to interview a patient, you learned about the medications and all of those things. But so when you come, of course, they want you to have some foundational knowledge, just like when you're going into medical school, they don't want you to be like, okay, what's an atom? But we want to see the growth. So there's a certain expectation that you have and milestones that you have to get during residency, from your first month of residency that they would not like to see in your 12th month of residency. They want to show some growth. They don't want you to like, oh, what is this? But I love that you say that about research because a lot of people want to just do it to do it or to put a little checkbox on their application. And that's a waste of your time.
Yeah. Before we close out this topic, I think one of the things I really learned during my research year was, and I know these are questions that come up all the time. If the first thing you should do is your residents are such a great resource, especially as a first year, second year, you're coming in and you're so shy or you're like timid and you don't want to like reach out to attendants. Reach out to your residents. The residents always have interesting cases. Tell them, make them your ally. Tell them, I am interested in your specialty. Do you have an interesting case that you want me to write up? And again, that is how you do research. Most times people expect that there's someone that is going to hold their hands and work them through. Till you do it, you cannot know how to do it. Till you write your first case report, you cannot know how to write a first case report. Till you submit an article to a journal and they come back and they request revisions, you will not know how to write a revised article. Till you go through whatever form of research, going through an IRB approval, you have to just do it. And how do you do it? Ask around. If it's there, say yes, and then ask questions at each point. Get through your first one, and then you're like, wait, that's how you write a case report? Guess what? Now you can write 2 at the same time, 3 at the same time. You just have to get through that first one, and your residents are the easiest people to go to. If residents are too much on the totem pole for you, go to a 4th or 5th year medical student. At this point, most of them already have close relationships with attendants. They have close relationships with residents. They have close relationships with the department because they've worked on that relationship. They can be your anchor into that specialty. They can be your anchor into research projects. The last thing that I think, I went to a webinar and this person talked about how there are other forms of research currency. You can do, if, for example, you like to work with, like me, I like to work with immigrant population. I turned that into research currency. How did I do that? There are journals that want your perspective as a trainee. There are journals, for example, there's academic medicine. There's even the New England Journal of Medicine. There's subsections where they accommodate medical student voices. And that can be a place where you're not tied to an attendee, you're not tied to anyone. This is something you're interested in. You have the expertise already based on your lived experience or based on what you're seeing around you. You can write for those journals too. So there's so many different avenues for research.
I love all of those tidbits and they're so important. Like you mentioned, You don't have to go all the way up to an attending. There's always going to be someone willing to help. And especially if you can kind of ease some of the burden for them, where it's kind of like a partnership, like, hey, let me tell you some
always
cool
looking
cases.
for help.
They will accept it. So utilize the resources and kind of create like your little, I like to call it your personal board of directors. So everyone's not your best friend. Everybody's not your family member and all of those kind of things. And they don't all have to be like these high level deans and attendings like on your mentorship team. You can get mentored by a fourth year if you're a second year, or mentored by a resident. And it doesn't have to be about your whole career. It could be in one particular aspect of your life. So getting that advice from people who want the best for you and see great things in you is so important. So you could go to one resident and say like, okay, I really want to work on my presentation skills. I want to like master this so I can do well on this rotation. Can you help me? I know you're really busy, but I'm going to practice. Can you just set aside like 20, 30 minutes for me? Most of the time they will say okay. Or if they don't have time, refer you to someone else. Or if you're interested in a particular field and you want to kind of learn more about it, reach out to people. Like, we are in a digital world, so you can reach out to people on LinkedIn, Instagram, all of that. Yes. And people love talking about themselves. So the worst case scenario, they say no. Just ask 20 other people. Someone will say yes.
Exactly. Yes. I cold emailed. I am not ashamed of it. And really, I found the most gracious responses from people when people are like, I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the time. This is not my topic of interest. Guess what? They gave me suggestions on who to reach out to. Now you can start narrowing down that boards of directors.
Absolutely.
Are you ready to conquer the MCAT and secure your future in medicine? Look no further than Med School Coach. With our unparalleled expertise and cutting-edge resources, you'll tackle the MCAT with confidence. Our practice exams, crafted by the world's leading MCAT experts, provide the most realistic simulation available. Discover your strengths and weaknesses with in-depth analytics and detailed explanations for every question. Plus, with options like our free half-length exam and affordable bundles, mastering the MCAT has never been easier or more accessible. Don't just prepare for the MCAT. Excel with Med School Coach.
So, one thing that we haven't talked much about, like we talked about your transition into the U.S. Education system, and we've talked about like how you got into med school and how you've done research. But you did a pretty big thing. You matched into dermatology, which is quite competitive. For the students who may be interested in dermatology, how would you suggest like exploring the field, especially since it's not a core rotation?
So I'm going to start from all the way where if you just have a slight interest. This is my advice for medical students, first year, second years, third years. If in the back of your mind, dermatology keeps coming to you and you're just like, oh, we'll see. I'm going to go and do my core rotations. It is not a bad idea to start getting that. Go to your department. If you have a dermatology department, talk to someone like me who just met, talk to someone who is interested or has shown like straight commitment to dermatology, talk to a resident, talk to anyone. Like if it's in the back of your mind, it's always better to start earlier than later because unfortunately it's becoming competitive where your foundation, how early you start can really help you. I took a research year because I decided on dermatology at the end of my third year. If I felt like, and I always had dermatology in the back of my mind, if I decided to have done a summer research project my first year, even if like just to see how it went, I would have probably had more research projects going into third, fourth year, and I would not have taken a research year. I immensely loved my research year, but that could also be when you get to that position, you can then decide. But it's always better if you have something competitive in the back of your mind, regardless, ophthalmology, orthopedics, neurosurgery, regardless of what it is, even if you have the fear of will I match or not, it's always better to start working on your portfolio in that. Again, dermatology can be linked to oncology, it can be linked to internal medicine. I ended up doing urology research my first year of med school. It doesn't matter what you start with, but if you feel like dermatology is in the back of your mind, just start there. And if you decide against it, no harm, no foul. So that's always my first advice for students. My second advice is once you feel like you want dermatology, go all in. Go all in. And I know it's scary. It's a scary thought because when you look at a match rate, the numbers reflect something differently. But when I look at people around me who do well on the match, those are people who went all in. They bared themselves. They were like, I am dermatology. I really want to do this. And this is what I'm going to do. Again, when you go all in, people are going to notice it. People around you will be like, she's all in, he's all in. We're going to support them. But if they feel like you're on the fence, they will put their time and their energy and their resource to another student who they feel is all in. So really go all in and scream it. Tell everyone, every single person, I am interested in dermatology. I remember there was some people always told me like, don't tell people that you're interested in dermatology during third year because they might be like, oh, you're interested in dermatology, so you don't really care about my rotation, psychiatry or OBGYN. I actually did not find that to be the case. I found that every single person who chose what they did chose it for a reason. So if you are choosing dermatology, most and every person is going to respect your choice and they're going to help you get to where you are. So that is, I think, like my two big things. I found out with dermatology in the match, the one big thing, just looking at the data, who you know matters. It's the world we live in, but when people hear who you know matters, their mind goes to, oh, nepotism or any form of that. But I don't believe that. I think who you know matters goes to your networking skills, your ability to put yourself out there, your ability to advocate for yourself. When I think of myself, I wanted to be in Texas. I wanted to be in Dallas. So when I go to conferences, I went to the Texan and the Dallas attendants. Dr. Glass, Dr. Vasquez, they all knew me before my interview day. When I look at all my friends, majority of the people where they ended up matching, they knew someone there or someone had heard of them. They either did that through doing an away rotation. Away rotations are important because it's a way to put yourself out there. It's a way to tell them that I am someone you want to work with. I am someone you would like to work with. Or you start networking early on. You email them, you tell them of your interests, you ask for a meeting, you sit with them, you tell them this is why I'm interested in your place. I have family here. I have my significant other here. I really like this patient population. People want people who want them. So I really find that like when there are people who had amazing scores who ended up not matching because they just did not have anyone in any institution who was like, this is my person. This is a person I want to come in. So you really want people to have your name in your mouth. So please advocate for yourselves. I think a lot of people who come from backgrounds like myself, if you are the first person in your family to be a physician, there's that humility you want to show. I don't want to show the research I'm doing. I don't want to talk about some of my achievements. You do want to talk about that. No one else is going to talk about your achievements. The chair of your department, your program director, your mentors, they have so much going on. They care about you. They really do. They care about your success, but they have families. They have their own careers. If you're not your own advocate, if you're not the one really speaking into existence what you want, it's really hard for them to know if you're not telling them that. So just remember, go all in, ask for advice, ask for helps, residents, attendants, program directors, chairs. Don't be afraid to like cold email. And if you want a particular place, if you want something, go for it. Go for it. The people who ended up, they were on Twitter, they were selling themselves, they did well on the match. They were on Instagram, they were selling themselves, they did well on the match. They did away rotation. 3, 2, 1. They did well in the match. The people who felt like their work would speak for them, everyone is good. Everyone has worked so hard. Everyone has put out the work. And then at the end of the day, then what they look at is who do I want to work with? Who wants to come here the most? And unfortunately, that's what ends up in a specialty that is as small as dermatology, 540 spots a year. Most places have 3 spots per year. They have to work with you for 3 years, 4 years. They really do select who they want based on who they know.
I couldn't say it better. That is wonderful advice. Like, you have to be a walking billboard for yourself, because if you aren't going to advocate for yourself and showcase why you're so awesome. Yes, you're awesome. All of you guys are there. Like, you've done amazing things. Tell people about it. Like, people, there's so many people in different industries, and especially in the healthcare industry, where they're wondering, like, why am I not being chosen for this job? Or why is this not getting picked up? And it's because people don't know who you are. Like, they don't know you. They don't read applications. I mean, we read applications, but like, you have to put a face to the words and stand out. So when you're going to these conferences, network, talk to people. Networking isn't just going by the table and signing that you were there. Like, ask questions, like, go to these away rotations. Like, the audition and the away rotations are instrumental, because it basically is an audition. Like, you're showing what your work ethic is and what questions you'll ask, how you'll be helpful for the team. Like, you're going to be there the next year. Like, for those interns, they're going to be your seniors. For those seniors, they're going to be like your chiefs. Do they want to be like saying, okay, you didn't do what I told you to do, or did you check those vitals? Like, show them. And when you go to these audition rotations, please be like on your best behavior. Like, don't go there and mess it up. They might love your application, and then you go there and you're late. You're asking interesting questions and things. Like, it's okay to ask questions, but read and be on your top game. And then from there, like you said, like, we have these mentors. Yes, everyone cares about you and they want you to thrive, but they have other mentees. They have their own personal lives. So you might have to tell them what you're doing too. They're not just following along. So be that walking billboard and showcase how wonderful you are, and go after what you want, just because you see these numbers, like you said, I think 540, 500 and something.
It's a very, it's not that much. And per institution, I think the largest derm program is 10 spots. So, and that is the largest. And most of them are 2, 3, 4 spots. So they're very selective of who they take. And most times their home students are who they end up taking. Most people end up matching in their home institution or their away rotation, to tell you how important that is. Or if you end up doing a research here at that institution, or if you have family ties and you are like me, I really would love to come here. I really would love to come here. I'm going to be awesome on paper and I would love to be here. That is how you get yourself in the door. You really have to be your own advocate. You really do. After you get to that threshold of the score, because once we get there, we've screened it. Now we still have 500 applicants who pass that threshold. Now, how do you become the 40 that gets invited for an interview? And how do you get to that 3 that gets chosen and ultimately match in there? That is what you're going against.
And for the listeners out there, I love what you just said. And I know that we're getting a little long, so this will be kind of like our last question. But I'm going to bring you guys behind the scenes, because you said something very wonderful. And when me and my friends were in residency, like, yes, the process and the match and the computer system, yes, is like the NBA draft. It's really competitive. Like, they match it up. And for most people, it aligns for what you want to do and what your ranked list is. But on the other side, like, these people are doing the same thing. They literally, in most institutions, will put up a PowerPoint. They have all the residents come, all the attendings come, and y'all have a rank list night. And in rank list night, they're going through, what do you remember about that student? Nothing. So don't stand in the corner. Oh, they got a 5, whatever their score was. They got this. They're okay. We'll put them on the list. But oh, that one, she was very engaging. She asked great questions. She was always there to help. She was always on time. She asked to stay late. When life happened, she made us aware. Like, she didn't just ghost us. Like, we want her on the team, and she's funny. So yeah, I wanna have like happy hour with her. We gonna rank her highly. So like, that's how the rank list goes. So the more people can remember you and remember you for good things is wonderful. Now, be yourself. Like, if you're not like warm and bubbly, like, you ain't gotta do that. Like, but that's a part of the process as well in terms of finding your people. My mentor told me is like, you'll figure out who's for you and y'all will vibe. So just showcase how wonderful you are. So I appreciate you dropping like so many gems and words of wisdom for all of the people who are coming up next. So I just want to leave you with an opportunity to tell our audience goodbye and where they can find you.
Thank you so much for having me in this podcast. If you're thinking of medicine, I am telling you, it is worth it. Yes, med school is not a walk in the park, and a lot of people tell you that. And there are people who have it harder, some people have it easier in between. But if this is something that you really want and it's just a dream that you cannot shake, please go for it. I ultimately believe I am so rewarded. I just worked a long shift today and I still want to come talk to you. And if someone else wants to talk to me, I will talk to them again because this invigorates it. It renews my spirit. And I'm just so excited to have this as a career. If dermatology is something that you're interested in, please do not be scared of what you've heard about the match list. There are people who have matched into dermatology who are international medical graduates, non-US citizens, who have scores that are not 260s, 270s, who have 2 research publications. Again, everything's a bell curve. It doesn't matter where you fall under that bell curve as long as you fall under that bell curve. So if this is your dream, pursue it, ask questions. You can email me. Chiamaka is my first name, Chiamaka. My last name is okoriemd@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram, Amaka, AMAKA_XO, or you can find me on TikTok, AMAKA_OXO, or you can find me on Twitter, Chiamaka Okorie Med on Twitter. I'm very happy to field or get any questions. Please, please, please reach out to me.
If you like this episode, please share it and make sure to subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. You can also find me, Dr. Erkeda DeRouen, on Instagram at Dr. DGram, DOCTOR, the letter DGRAM, or on LinkedIn under my name, Erkeda DeRouen. See you guys next week.
Each episode of the Prospective Doctor podcast is brought to you by Med School Coach. To access articles, videos, webinars, and free tools to help you succeed on your journey toward med school and beyond, visit our website, prospectivedoctor.com. We hope you tune in again next time.
Study for the MCAT anytime, anywhere, and boost your score. Get started with the MCAT Prep app by Med School Coach. Access hundreds of video tutorials, flashcards, and a robust question bank. With study scheduling and spaced repetition flashcards, mastering the MCAT has never been easier or more convenient. Join thousands of satisfied users who have elevated their MCAT game. Download the MCAT Prep app by Med School Coach from your favorite app store today.